This car is the most honest car you ever see.
It's been a dream ever since I've had it.
The first time I heard that engine screaming, I thought, I gotta have one of those.
For me, the cars have personality.
What's great about a BMW Classic is the community that surrounds it.
When you listen to that, that's why we're here.
Welcome to Classic Heart, the BMW Group Classic podcast. This is JP, and a warm welcome to everyone who joins us on this session. We have quite a special session because, as you might know, in October, actually also September, there's a big festivity called the Oktoberfest in Munich. And that means Munich is in a very special state, I would say. And we're very, very happy that we have Jasper Walther as our guest today, who just got actually back from the Oktoberfest yesterday evening. So everything that's going to happen has a little bit of Oktoberfest vibe in it. So a very warm welcome to Jasper Walther from Munich. Jasper, hello.
Thank you, JP, and Prost to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big event in Munich. So thank you very much for taking the time and joining us. We really appreciate it, Jasper. You know, the podcast is the BMW Group Classic Podcast. So that means, obviously, we have guests that have a relation to cars. Your relation is both enthusiasm and also a profession, because you're the managing director of the Drivers Business Club in Munich. Did you grow up into a car crazy family?
Absolutely, you can say that my family is car crazy. It all comes from my dad originally. He always worked with cars as a communication manager for head of communications at a car company. And we grew up with it. And just before I got my driving license, actually, he started organizing vintage car rallies every 2 years. And that was such a fun community. And lots of children of his friends were also part of that. So, yeah, we really spend our days with it.
If you're looking back, were you always into cars?
I would say so. Absolutely. I can't tell you when exactly that started, what age. But by the time we moved to Stuttgart, all of a sudden it was present. All of a sudden they were there and they really filled out our life. And I was always amazed by how every year the cars get faster and bigger, and how it connects people. Really, you know, you have a real community behind these cars, and that I really always enjoyed, because every time we did something where cars were around, it was always fun.
Yeah, always fun people. I could imagine that. And I mean, we see this also with what you do now, because the influence, and I think it's fair to say, of your cars had a big impact on your career as well, because you became the managing partner or the managing director of the Drivers and Business Club in Munich. I think you should share a little bit about the idea of that club.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. I'm happy to share why we decided we need to create a place where like-minded car enthusiasts can meet up. It's not a new idea, really. If you think about the Royal Automotive Club in London or the Car Club in Paris, these have existed for over 100 years. And Germany never had something similar to it. You know, we have the ADAC. It's a club, right? But it's completely different. So we thought there should be a German answer to the Royal Automotive Club in London. Yeah. And we decided, hey, with our group of friends and the people we know who are passionate about classic cars and cars in general and motorbikes, we thought, let's get them all together and make them a home where they can exchange. Yeah.
Yeah. So the RAC, the Royal Automobile Club in London, is one of the biggest institutions in the car world. It's located at the Pall Mall, which is like in the club scene center of London. As you already said, 100 years of history, very traditional member structure. So everyone who is a member can go there and have a drink or meet friends, or they do events and things like this. So it's always like the idea of bringing like-minded people together. And I think the same applies to the Drivers and Business Club. So can you share how many members are there at the moment?
At the moment, we have nearly 800 members.
Wow.
And what's great about it, it's not only like established elder people, you know, we have a big young community with over 100 members who are below 35 years old. And we have also female members, and not as many as I'd like, but already more than 10%. So that's great. And we like to be a club for the whole family.
You know, when we look at the website of the Drivers Business Club, you say it's a meeting place where ideas are created and decisions are made. I mean, that's a very bold statement. How do you help people in doing so? I mean, you have members from all over the industry. You have like industry leaders in design, industry leaders in the building process, everything. You have car collector members. So has that always been the mission, to create a place where they can meet and exchange ideas? Maybe they don't talk on outside of the club environment?
You are absolutely right, JP. So we have members throughout all industries, but especially in the car industries, we have, as you said, we have designers, we have technicians, we have managers in that industry, and we wanted to create a place where people can meet with other car brands, you know, and just exchange. So we have lots of presentations in the clubhouse. We have lots of talks and get-togethers where they can just exchange. And I'm convinced that when we bring them together in a friendly and nice environment, and they start talking, it might have, you know, an influence on future decisions they do when they design a new car or create a new engine or something like that. So I'm convinced that the more often they get together and exchange ideas, this is some sort of influence that the club can have.
I think that's a very special thing as well, because you have this relaxed atmosphere where you have a drink and then you can talk, or you have like a nice lunch or dinner. And also like the event program is quite interesting, as you mentioned already. So there's lots of conversation programs going on, like in the library. I think you have a series of talks. So how do you choose the guests? Is that something like you sit together with other members of the club, or how can we imagine that one, that you say, okay, let's have a talk with Adrian van Hooijdonk? I mean, that was the last one I was kindly invited to join to listen to. But how does this idea come together? Is it like also your job as manager to create this kind of programs?
Not really. I don't have to get very creative about it, because I have these interesting, inspiring members that have all these ideas and things that they want to share. And so, you know, in the beginning, it was a lot of explaining our vision, explaining the hypothesis of a club and why this needs to be created. We had to convince a few people. But now that we are here and that we have a building where we can always come, have a drink, and we created a space. And now the ideas are just coming, and I'm slowly putting them into the calendar with a fantastic team, by the way. So there's a lot of people standing behind the Drivers Business Club.
Yeah.
We have 32 people in the team. So it's a big operation, in my opinion.
It is. And teamwork makes the dream work. A very good example for this. But Jasper, joining a club like the Drivers Business Club, as you mentioned before, is a great opportunity for exchange. But would you say it's also fair to say it is a great place for networking?
The club is a neutral place, but it gives all of our members the opportunity to organize their, for instance, charity events as well. It's a popular place to invite guests. So we try to set the perfect mood for our members with all their ideas that they have or plans that they have with the club. But what I think is even more significant is actually the fact that if we manage to connect the right people in the club, then we can do some real good things. Yeah.
So I think it shows that to a joint topic, in this case, automotive or motorbikes, or the enthusiasm for it, there can be also good things happening outside of that environment. And I really like the idea of that. If you look at your members, you just mentioned the member structure a little bit. Would you say that your club is international, or is it very Germany focused?
I would say it's already international, but it can be much more international. We have our headquarters in one place. Our clubhouse is standing in Munich right now. We got to start somewhere. Munich is an interesting city for that because it's had a very high density of special cars and vintage cars. So it's a very, very good place here in Germany for that. At the same time, we try to increase our partnership network with other clubs. So we have 250 clubs worldwide already, and we continue increasing that and create reciprocity agreements with these international clubs. So our members can go there and their members can come to our clubhouse when they're in Munich. So that's how we start becoming international. And on the other hand as well, we have all these events. So I would say from the 150 events that we organize every year, 50 of them are offsite events where we fly to Goodwood or drive to somewhere to Italy or
You mentioned the partner clubs. Are they all related to cars, or does this not really matter?
We ourselves see our Drivers Business Club a little bit like a country club in the city. Because we have a lot of space outside for parking cars and other festivities. So we'd like to partner up with golf clubs, with art clubs, all sorts of clubs, because our members, even though they all share their interest and passion for cars, they have many more interests.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me jump back to the event I mentioned where Adrian van Hooydonk was a guest, because I think that was something together with the like an organization is it called the Friends of the Pinakothek of the Moderne?
Yes,
something like this.
It's called, yeah.
So, and I really like it because I think you have the director of the Pinakothek, which is an art museum in Munich, a very important one also on a global scale. And she had a conversation with Adrian van Hooydonk about car design. I mean, these things you don't see very often, that the art world meets the car world. I mean, of course, you see it, especially in the BMW history, if you look at the art cars. So the specific set of cars that has been designed or created by different artists. But this specific talk was very interesting because there were members of the Drivers Club there, and then there were members of this Friends of the Pinakothek there, and the conversations they had were so amazing. And I mean, bringing people together is the most important thing for a club like yours, I assume.
You mentioned a really, really nice evening that we had that day. That's actually one of my favorites we had so far, and it was a popular talk. Yeah. Usually we fill like our library with 40 people, which is good. It's an exclusive round, but there was such high demand for this talk that day that we moved into one of our event wings, and we fit 100 people in.
Yeah, amazing. Can everyone become a member, technically speaking?
So the way it works is if you are interested in the Drivers Business Club, you need 2 existing members who, refer you. And you should be car enthusiastic. Obviously, that's important. Or motorcycles.
Yeah. But maybe we have some listeners of this podcast who think, okay, but I don't know anyone who is a member. Are there other ways to join?
Well, we are all very approachable, I would say. Everyone can call us, and I'm very open for meetings if one is interested. And then we find out, maybe they already know someone who's a member, Yeah. We have a board of trustee. This board, there are 30 renowned people from the car industry or from the car space. They represent the membership community or the members community. So that already helps. One might know one or the other. And then we talk about where they like to drive or what rallies they participate or where they live and what kind of brand they're interested in, car brands or car they drive. Then there's always a way to find out who it is.
It's always interesting because this club world is a bit of mysterious in a sense. So what kind of mindset should a person who wants to apply to become a member at the club bring?
Well, we love to have cool members. That is really important to us. So obviously, so there's no specific things that they should bring in. We just want like-minded, cool, interesting people who are open for socializing with other people.
So what is it like? Does it cost me to become a member?
We charge an entry fee and an annual membership fee.
Can you share how much that is?
Sure. We differentiate between young members up to 32 and everyone above. So the entry fee for young members is €2,000, and for, let's say, older members, established members, €6,000 for private membership, and then every year 2,500.
Yeah.
For the youngsters, a little less.
Yeah. So, I mean, the club is in a very specific location. It's close to the Motorworld in Munich. Can you explain to us a little bit more, what is Motorworld?
Motorworld is a huge classic car and super sports car center. I think it's the biggest one in Europe, maybe even in the world. I can't exactly tell you what there might be in China, but it's a gigantic hall that used to be a train restoration center. I would say it's a very cool shopping mall where you can buy cars. So you have a lot of dealers. You have even BMW has a beautiful showroom in the Motorworld as well, where they show different cars. They always have 3 cars in there and 1 outside. Yeah. And at the same time, you have a hotel in there with 165 rooms.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of conference rooms and event space. So you can have huge events there.
Yeah.
The biggest hall is for 5,500 people.
Oh, that's massive.
And it's a great place for the International Automotive Show.
I mean, that recently went on in Munich, and I really loved it because it was not like focused on some like a fair. It was really spread over the city. Were there lots of activities as well from IAA in the Motorworld and the Drivers Business Club?
We had some very cool cars in the clubhouse at that time. Actually, the cars that don't really find space at the IAA nowadays, really. And we had Koenigsegg and we had Roof. We had like very special cars in the clubhouse that you don't find in the city center.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I really enjoy the IAA in Munich. I think it's great that it's so defragmented, or that it is so spread out through the whole city. It's done very well, and since these open spaces are so accessible to the public, I really enjoyed that.
I totally agree. The concept of having these little places, these little satellites of events going on, showing what's new in the car world, was a really, really cool thing and absolutely fun to visit. I remember that BMW showed the Vision Neue Klasse in a hall which is now a concert hall next to the Motorworld. And I mean, this is fantastic. It was like traveling into the future of car design. So that was really, really exciting. And further to that, I think to remember that there is a special relation between the Drivers Business Club and the BMW Classic, isn't it?
Yes, there is from very early on. And I can say that Ulrich Knips was one of our trustees. So he was actually one of the persons we could go out and say that he's a member to attract more potential members. So very early on, we started our relationship with a BMW Classic. And when Ulrich Knips left the company, now we have a successor as a member in the clubhouse. And we have a few ideas how we can live club life and what can be done for the members. Yeah.
I remember there was also a talk with Helmut Kees about the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este. I remember also that was a nice event as well. This was in a library, actually. And so I think these kind of things are super important to make the club life a vivid space, I would say. Can you just say, in general, what cars do your members drive?
Oh, they drive all sorts of cars. I couldn't really tell you. I can give you a few examples because there are so many. But from little Fiat 500 Cinquecentas, old ones, or as an Abarth Cinquecenta, all the way to the most impressive, valuable cars. Really, and lots of vintage cars. Yeah, beautiful cars in front of the clubhouse. Sometimes we like to have the special kind of cars in the club of all age. Yeah.
But I can also say that like the entrance drive, like the driveway in front of the clubhouse, when everyone is parked in the same direction in a very nice orderly fashion, this is also sometimes a very nice place for car spotting, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very peculiar of we call it Parc Fermé. It's not a real Parc Fermé, but like our parking spots, everybody has to drive in backwards, and we have make sure all the cars are really aligned.
Yeah.
because it has to look beautiful when you come in. We celebrate that, and that's
still it's a German club, so that's what we are famous for, making everything in order and very in alignment.
Totally, absolutely. And really, guests sometimes think we are strange like that, but members really appreciate it, and it's really learned. Everybody knows it by now. Nobody parks them wrong, and we even go out to the people who park wrong and even ask them if they could repark the car. It's not always easy, everybody likes that, but then we offer that we will do it for them, and then sometimes we can also drive nice cars. The team.
Jasper, for the club, you organize also trips, right? As you mentioned in the beginning.
Yes.
So what is the one you will never forget? One of the tours you did with the club together.
My favorite trip so far is basically all trips to Goodwood so far.
Yeah.
I'm amazed by Goodwood. It's such an experience, especially the revival is like a time travel. And that is something I will never forget, going there. And I want to go back every year with a delegation of members. It really feels funny. We feel like a little delegation going there representing our community, our club life, and meeting people and enjoying the festivities.
I mean, that's true, and I agree completely with the revival. And I mean, it was very fun to enjoy the revival together this year. So very exciting races on the track, and everyone dressed up and all these kind of things. I think it's fair to share that the Duke of Richmond is one of your trustees, right? I just break the news now.
Yeah, you break the news, but that's great.
Yeah.
He's one of our trustees and a great supporter of the Drivers Business Club. And an inspiration for me, together with Charlie as well. I think there are some parallels between how they do it, family and father and son, and how I like to do it with my dad, who's our club president and one of the founders. So,
And you have something else in common, because Charlie was also part of this podcast. So there's more similarities.
I hope he hears this one, because I took him to the Oktoberfest once and we had a blast.
Yeah, I could imagine that. Jasper, we spoke a lot about the club, but what do cars mean personally to you? So what is the meaning of a car to you? What does it stand for?
Well, for me, a car stands completely for independence.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it can be such a cultural good. I think, I don't know if I phrase it right, but it's like a design object, a piece of art with all this technique in there, and it can move and can bring you wherever you want. I think it's still a symbol of freedom, basically, and independence, and you can go wherever you like. So at the same time, it is fast and it's fun, it looks beautiful. So all of these things is what I think of and what comes to my mind when I see a car.
Yeah, and you mentioned
not
at the beginning
any car, obviously. I mean,
of course. I mean, we have to.
Yeah,
that's a question of taste as well. But you mentioned also that cars bring people together. I think that's also something that's very important to you.
It is, absolutely. And the conversations in cars are always very special, and it happens rarely to have good quality conversations when the days move so quickly. And a car is a place where this is still possible. I really enjoy long trips, one by one or with a bigger group, because of the conversations.
Yeah. Speaking about diving into something, when you have time for yourself, do you do trips around Munich?
Yes, I do trips. I actually have a few routes now that I really enjoy, and that when members ask me, hey, where can we drive around? Then I always say, hey, here's my Google Maps link. It's a cool track. Try it out.
Would you share that Google Maps links with us?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I mean, that would be fantastic, because that would be perfect to share in the show notes.
I'm happy to do that.
Mega.
So, yeah, absolutely. I have a good route that was just tried out by members of mine. They asked me for a route to Kitzbühel. Mm-hmm. It's a nice track through Garmisch-Partenkirchen and so on, and along the Alps. That one I will share with you.
Nice. Thank you for sharing this, Jasper. Speaking of driving, is there a car you always wanted to drive? Like, let's say, a dream come true while driving?
Well, you know about it. It's the 507.
Yeah.
During the IAA, we had the 507 community of 507 owners who do once a year a trip. It cannot cost more than 507 euros.
Oh, wow.
We host for the whole trip, right?
Yeah.
And we hosted them one lunch at the clubhouse, and we had 20 507s in front of the clubhouse.
Wow.
And this car is incredible. I mean,
legend.
That one I'd love to drive.
Yeah,
Cruise.
I could imagine.
Just cruise.
But
I wouldn't race
how-
it though. I would not race that car.
No, I mean, I haven't seen one lately racing. I mean, they have been in the 60s, 70s. They were used actually also in racing, but then they stopped because for the driving safety things, so like a roll bar and things like that. But I mean, this car is such a legendary car. I love it so much. It's one of the most beautiful open cars made by a German manufacturer, I think. But I really like that the 507 enthusiasts say, you know, when we go on a trip, it's not allowed to cost more than 507 euros. I really love that. That's amazing.
And it's not easy to do a proper trip for that budget because I think it goes for several days. I think it's 2 or 3 days. So, you know, try to get that.
To be honest, I think the gasoline prices are not into that.
Yeah, they have to calculate some out. Maybe even the hotels. Or
Yeah,
they,
maybe
you know,
that as
they
well.
have a conversation with BMW. Maybe they sponsor.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be great.
Perfect. We will see. Switching the topic now, because I find it quite interesting that you, as a young bloke under 40, managing a club like this, and I think it just has to be mentioned, it's a lot of responsibility as well. And I think I really like that the trust, the founder, of course, your father, and I mean, it's also not an easy decision to work with the family so closely.
I think in our case, it works super, super well. And I'm very thankful for all the trust I got from not just my father, who's our club president and one of the founders, and Andreas Dünkel, who's another founder, and Alexander Heinen, who has been also the managing director or the CEO of the club for a long time without a salary. Great guy, really nice.
I mean,
I can't say the same.
He can start working for us.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I was trusted with a lot of responsibility from the founders. And when I started, we were like 60 members. And these were, there was my aunt in it, there was my uncle, best friends of my dad, of Andreas Dünkel, of Xander. So it was a very close circle and very familiar. And out of this circle, we continued growing and growing because they recommend new people. That's why it is such a familiar community.
Yeah.
And I learned with all the things and all the jobs I had to do so far to be now managing a director. I've been working there for 6 years now, and I really enjoy it. It's a blessing to have this job. And definitely it's not easy because there are many complex factors and things to consider. It's a mix between gastronomy and then building a community and co-working space and all of that. So it's complex, but I love it dearly. And the members who are very successful people, because being a car enthusiast or even collecting cars, this requires obviously a very good financial position. Yeah. So they are very successful in the economy and making sure that they feel there's value for them in the club. It's not always easy, but somehow they love it. They feel at home there. So, yeah.
I mean, you normally say, make you feel at home away from home. And I think that's one of the obligations of the club.
Yes, absolutely. Well, our slogan is home to people with drive. I think this explains very well what we're doing.
Cool. I mean, that sounds like a very nice mission and a very nice closing of our podcast. And I have to say, thank you so much, Jasper, for joining us.
Thank you, JP.
No, thank you very much. And if you liked our little podcast, please don't forget to subscribe that you don't miss any of our episodes coming up. And also, if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating. That helps to publicize this podcast. Share it as much as you can and as much as you like. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in. And of course, this wouldn't have not been possible without a great team behind it. So we have Robin from Shot One, Friederike, our editor, and Alex and Marcus from our scenario studio, which helps putting everything together. Thank you all again for listening in. And Jasper, thank you again very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.